Hi, it's Robin from Minimalism Off Over 50. Today I'm going to share with you how I got into minimalism. What is the start of sort of our minimalist journey? So it was back, my kids were 3 and 5 at the time. So it would have been like 16, 17 years ago that my family was in, my husband and I were at a bit of a faith crisis. No, that's not true. We were in the middle of a faith crisis, frustrated with Christianity, having trouble believing some of the core tenets. We went to a place called L'Abri outside of Boston and spent 3 months there, working around issues of God and faith. We came out of that essentially. I'm going to shortcut through the whole L'Abri part. And after the end of 3 months at L'Abri, my husband and I had a bit of a second conversion and came out with our faith, our sort of Orthodox Christian faith intact. So when we came back and we lived outside of San Francisco at the time. So we lived on the peninsula outside of San Francisco in a beautiful home that overlooked, it was on top of the hill. We had a view of San Francisco Bay. We were eyeball deep in debt. And I remember walking in the door after having been away for 3 months. When we were at L'Abri, our family all lived in one room. My husband and I had a bed. The kids each had a mat on the floor. We had an en-suite bathroom, and that was it. We were all living in one room, and it was cozy and sweet. We have actually a lot of sweet memories from our time at L'Abri. So when we came back, we walked into this expensive house that we were going to be in debt for the next 30 years for, and it all just felt like a lot. So at that time, I happened to run across Joshua Becker's website. So this was the very earliest days of when people were beginning to talk about minimalism. The minimalists were out there, Joshua Becker was out there, but that was really it. And so I was talking to Charlie, and we had been talking about it feeling like a lot. An aside there is that he had been having some issues with a stress-related health condition from just a very, very stressful job. So we started reading more about minimalism and wanting that, wanting more of the things in life that mattered and less overhead, less debt, less stuff, less to clean up after, less to insure. We were done with trying to impress anybody around us. We were never really sort of wired that way anyway. But we were feeling sort of done with being in debt to our eyeballs with a lifestyle, with a lot of stuff that was quite frankly making my husband sick. So we went on a tear. Maybe that's not the best word, but we started decluttering. We had stuff in the garage. We had a basement room that was filled to the brim with stuff. Our house was full of furniture, and we got rid of 80% of our belongings. If you've ever done that, you know it's a humbling process, because these things that you value, that you have moved from place to place to place, it can be very hard to get rid of them. I remember trying to sell things on Craigslist first and posting them and reposting them. And then posting it, when it wouldn't sell on Craigslist, we tried to get rid of it on FreeCycle, and posting it and reposting it on FreeCycle, trying to get rid of things. And then eventually we just took load after load after load, other than the trash, to Goodwill. So it's a humbling thing when you have spent time and money to accumulate this stuff that nobody wants. But we went through that process. We briefly moved to, well, it was for a couple of years, to a smaller rental in the Bay Area. Um, and then we were just wanting less. We were wanting to get a house again, but we wanted a less expensive city. We wanted Charlie not to have such a, he was in the middle of a high pressure career. He still does work in a career like that, but on his own terms. So we moved to a less expensive city, which I know Portland is expensive. Relative to the Bay Area, it's significantly more affordable. So we had friends up in Portland as well. So we decided, we took a couple of trips up here to visit and loved at that point what the feel was, sort of a bit of a gritty Northwest feel. And so we moved to Portland. And within a few months bought a house here that was about a third of the cost of what we bought in, of what we had owned when we lived in the Bay Area. So it is a temptation when you move here, and many people who move to Portland or to a cheaper city in general will buy a more expensive house or the same amount of house in a fancier neighborhood. And we didn't do that. So we moved into a neighborhood. It's upper middle class, but it's not a fancy neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood, but it is not swanky. So I remember buying this house and feeling it's a third of the cost. I may have already said that. It's a third of the cost of what we had in the Bay Area. And when we closed in the house, my husband and I high-fived because we were able to get a 15-year mortgage that we could easily afford versus the 30-year before. And we had plans to pay it off early, and we're on track to do that. So we have had challenges since then. I have shared this in other places, but we owned a fair trade business that had a fair amount of stuff. So we owned a fair trade soap business that we eventually dissolved and had to get rid of all of the goods for that fair trade soap company. I also lost both of my parents, and there was stuff involved with that. So we have had an ongoing sort of journey with decluttering, but our house is really very well decluttered and easy to keep clean, easy to maintain at this point. So we have not looked back. Both of us have a very minimalist wardrobe. You know about my 36-365, where I'm living with 36 pieces for a year. We'll have a pretty lean house, but is very cozy and comfortable. So we are very, very grateful and thankful for the concept of minimalism, Joshua Becker's work, the minimalist work that sort of introduced us to the concept of minimalism. We live our own brand of minimalism. You see, I have color on the walls. I have art on the walls. It's just probably less than most people would have. We also have a lot of margin in our house with empty drawers and cabinets with space in them. So I think that is it for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.